grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back with a shorter review episode this week as Birdman and I are still on our summer hiatus break, but we had a few items that we wanted to talk about here. It's going to be a very short intro because not a whole heck of a lot has happened in the last week or so, but I can tell you right now what we've got. We've got a couple Transformers from Birdman that we'll be throwing in here that he wants to talk about. I will also have a couple of devices for the MetaQuest 2 headset, as well as a review of the Sony Pictures Big George Foreman, and I think that's probably going to do it this time. I'll be back at the end to sort of give an update on programming. Not a whole lot yet right now, as we're getting closer to August when Birdman returns with the rest of the crew to sub in for me while I'm still off until the end of August. But we do have other programming in the works, so we'll talk about that later on. As far as anything else that I've been doing recently, just been helping out with my mom and with my grandmother, getting her assessed and stuff. She's probably gonna be going to long-term care. A lot of family stuff in the background. Nothing interesting for anybody else. But I will be seeing Oppenheimer this week. I don't know if I'm going to get to see the Barbie movie. I'm not sure just if I'm going to go with anybody or if it ends up being something I see in the cheap theater later on or something to that extent. But I'll be seeing Oppenheimer for sure, and then we'll see what else is coming. And then I guess some of the summer shows are starting up, so we'll be catching up on that. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about Twisted Metal at some point on the show. But yes, we'll get into the reviews. Just it's going to be a quickie one. Probably going to drop this episode in the middle of the night at some point. But yeah. So I'm not sure which order we're going to go in, but it's going to be some stuff from Birdman, some stuff from myself, and I'll come back at the end.
Basically, he was a geek, sir.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Autobot, meet your doom.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really cool we got for review here on the show from our friends over at Hasbro. I'm going to be talking about Transformers Legacy Evolution Dirge. Now, this is a character that was previously released in the Earthrise. I think he was part of a 2-pack, and he's one of the Conehead Seekers on the Decepticon side. And I think he looks really awesome. However, though, that being said, this is a re-release of a previous figure, but there are some notable differences to be aware of if you were thinking about picking this figure up, thinking there's going to be differences from the Earthrise release. Now, there are the two things that have been noticed mostly come down to paint decos, and most specifically, with the Earthrise release, his wings were actually painted, whereas the ones on the Legacy Evolution are actually tan plastic. They're actually molded. So this is kind of like it's more, it comes down to what is your preference. Do you want a matte or a glossy finish on your Dirge? And the other one to notice is that his knees on the Earthrise release are more of this deep, richer purple, whereas on the Legacy Evolution version of this figure, they're kind of like a lighter Joker purple, I guess, maybe kind of like a lilac-y sort of thing. I mean, I never had this figure before this review, so I don't have the Earthrise version to to compare. A lot of this was actually found by folks over at Cybertron.com. But that being said, the figure itself is fairly awesome. Like, I'm a big fan of any of the Seeker Decepticons. Transformation is fairly easy, which is what I like about it. He does have his blasters, or the null rays. I'm not sure what they call them on the Seekers. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of, and I think they could have changed this for the Legacy Evolution release, is to maybe give him more of a neutral face. Here he has this kind of screaming, ah, sort of thing. That's about the only real negative from a sculpting standpoint, I would say. And I guess I'm glad that they put it into the tan plastic as opposed to the painted plastic. I don't know. I don't like the possibility of thinking I could maybe chip the plastic or scrape off the paint by accident, stuff like that. There's also one, when you're transforming, you could scuff the paints on, I think, one of the nose cones. If I'm remembering right, I have seen other collectors say that is one of the things to be aware with this release. But ultimately, Legacy Evolution Dirge, if you didn't pick this figure up initially when it was available in the Earthrise 2-pack, then yeah, you should probably grab this. If you already have this figure in your collection from the previously mentioned release, then you probably can skip this one fairly easily. I mean, maybe if you wanted to have one displayed in robot mode and one displayed in jet mode, that's a possibility you could do. But ultimately, Legacy Evolution Dirge is going to come down. Do you have this guy in your collection? Do you care about a particular paint app? And that's about the best thing I can say. This one is definitely going to come down to personal preference. I like it because I don't have it. But if you already have it, then you probably don't need to shell out extra Energon cubes to pick this guy up for your collection.
Mayday, mayday. Can Dirge carry out a simple mission?
I think the answer is obvious.
Can't stay up any longer. I'm going to crash.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager. And that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
It's been a while since we had new VR tech to review here on This Week in Geek, and the company ZyberVR sent over a couple of items for the MetaQuest 2 for us to check out. They also have products for the Pico 4, Quest Pro, and PSVR. But since the Quest 2 is the VR headset that we actually have, I said, hey, yeah, sure, we'll check out some stuff if you've got something interesting. And what they sent was the ZyberVR wireless charging dock for the Quest 2. They have a couple different charging docks that have slightly different styles, but this is the one that I was sent, so I can, I'll discuss it, but similar for each one, but maybe slightly different design on the outside, maybe slightly different function, but for the most part, they'll function the same. But I'll put a link to the website so you can see all of them. But this is the first item that I received out of 2 in a package, and what it is a dock that lets you plug in the headset itself, like in a base in the center to charge, as well as letting you plug in the 2 handheld controllers with rechargeable batteries into the slots to the left and right of it, so you can charge it all in one specific spot instead of having to replace individual AA batteries, disposables in the handsets, and have like a random wire plugged into the headset to sort of have it floating or wherever. It cleans everything up and puts it in a nice spot. Now, it takes about 2.5 hours to charge, and I can confirm that that's about true from if you're going from completely empty, with pretty good quality. Like, sometimes you worry if it's a company you haven't heard of before, is it going to use like a cheap plastic that smells funny or anything? Nope. High quality. It appears to be very durable. It's got all the over voltage protections and everything like that. It does provide 20 watts of fast charging, so it can quick charge the headset, including the headsets, as well as the controllers. In 2.5 hours, from average use, you're not really ever going to drain it that far. So after like a pretty long gaming session, between an hour and a half, you can have it completely charged up again, which is actually pretty good. The color of the plastic matches the headset, which is good too, so it's not using like an off-brand color. It looks like it could be almost an official licensed product, like, you know, from Meta itself, but it's just, you know, a third party. It does come with 2 charging cables for it. It comes with the kit to make it so that you can put the controllers into the actual charging slots. It's aesthetically pleasing, takes up very little space, and it's pretty solid overall. Like, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't have one at all up until this point. So, you know, really good. If you're looking for something to charge your Quest 2, it's going to run you in Canada on their website about $88. They have another one that's in the $60 range that is a little smaller and more compact, but it all depends on your aesthetics, what you'd like. But you're running anywhere from $60 to $100 Canadian. You know, figure out the math on the American price for that, but it's actually a pretty good product overall for that price. And the other accessory that we got to check out is their ZyberVR Elite head strap with a 6,000 milliamp hour battery for the Quest 2. So what this does is it replaces the arms and head strap that comes with the headset, with something that's quite comfortable actually, and surprisingly large enough to fit in my head, because I'm somebody who has a gigantic noggin that can be problematic when it comes to fitting these things. And then the back strap that goes around the back, as opposed to being just regular straps, it has a hard plastic shell case with a wheel knob that you turn to tighten or loosen the head, and built into that is the battery. And so what you do is you have your headset completely charged up, let's say to full, and depending on what you're playing, if you're not wired into the computer or you're just playing it in the dedicated mode, like its own separate mode, you are going to get anywhere from 3 to 7 hours of battery life, depending on your brightness settings, the intensity of the game you're playing, what you're doing, so on and so forth. And what this does is it has a battery built in to that back part of the back pane, and you have a wire that plugs in from there into the charging port of the headset itself, and then it will, as it drains the headset, it starts pulling the charge from the actual head strap. And what that ends up doing is you end up with like double, if not more, like it's something that's advertised as, you know, you can get like triple the play out of it. I got about 2.5 times before, so I was able to get like 10-11 hours off of a single charge, off leaving it plugged in. So, you know, when you're done, once it's fully charged, if you're done playing, you can just unplug the cable from the side of the device, and that way there's no extra drain for no reason. And you can get like full-on, like full-day gaming sessions if you wanted to without having to charge. And then when you're done, in my case, I was able to, unplug the cable from the side of the device, then put the headset in the charging dock, and then I just had to use an extra cable to charge up the actual headset battery itself, like the head strap battery. So overall, pretty good experience, especially if you're going to be somebody who doesn't want to be tethered for long periods of time and on the go. Again, good build quality. Very surprised it fit my head. I've got one of the biggest heads you ever can imagine, and I had absolutely no problem with it. So very solid product. Very happy with everything that we've seen so far from Zyber. So maybe we'll be able to check out some more stuff in the future from them, because they also provide services like prescription lenses. I had initially a hard time back in the day with the headset trying to get it to work with my glasses. I luckily have glasses now that are smaller and can fit inside, but if you're somebody who wants maybe to go completely glassesless, if you have myopia or other forms of nearsightedness like I do, or astigmatism where you need to have something in there, they're a company that can provide that. So maybe we'll check that out in the future. And in the meantime, if you're looking for something to get for batteries, extended battery life on it, the headset strap, or you're looking for a charging dock, something that can be clean and, on your shelf to the side, and not just have the headset loose falling around, and just have everything nice and clean. They have products for that. They have other things that you can get for the controllers, like grips and other little leather covers and so on and so forth. So maybe we'll check some of that stuff out in the next little bit. But as it stands now, the ZyberVR Elite headset strap and their charging dock are some of the best third-party products I've seen available for the MetaQuest 2.
New Transformers are here. Now, twin Nebulons transform into weapons that new Target Master Autobots need. Target Master Transformers, they've got the power to surprise. And the twin Nebulons can also form a super weapon. Target Master Transformers, they've got the power to surprise. But the Decepticons have new Target Masters too. Target Master Transformers, they've got the power to surprise. Each Target Master comes with 2 transformable Nebulon figures.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to take a look at yet another Transformer here on the show. I know, I've got a sickness, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to be taking a look at Transformers Legacy Evolution Needlenose. This is a deluxe class, and a character that is new to me, which is kind of weird when you really think about it, considering how deep I am into the Transformer stuff. So Needlenose is a Decepticon, and he's a Target Master. And this character I've only really started to become aware of because I'm reading through the IDW comics right now, and he appears in some of his, I want to say he's related to one of the Autobots. I think he's like a brother or something. Either way, that doesn't really matter. So what Needlenose transforms into, he transforms into this like Cybertronian jet. And I think he's compatible with like some other characters. I think Skyquake, I think he can combine with him. I don't have that figure, but I think I remember seeing that on the back of the box in Walmart. But Needlenose, simple transformation from robot into vehicle mode. You can attach his 2 Target Master partners under his wings. He can hold them in robot mode as these tool pistol things. And I think he looks really awesome, actually. Like, he looks vicious with it. Plus, great overall sculpt in the robot mode. Like, I love his facial structure. I love his chest. Just, it's a really good looking Decepticon mold. And the thing is, my personal favorite in scale, and I'm kind of learning this as I review these figures more and more, Deluxe and Voyager are probably where I find the most enjoyment, because I love the scale of these figures. Anything bigger than a Voyager, when you go into Leader and Supreme class, it's a little bit, I feel hit or miss. Either the transformation's too complex or it's too big. But with Deluxes, you're getting a really quick transformation. Sometimes you'll get a surprise and get something a little bit more complex, but you'll get something really neat. With deluxe scale figures, you get a really good range of posability and articulation. You get some 2 accessories, and the fact that Needlenose gets 2 Target Masters, I think looks awesome. And just the fact that he can like hold one out like he's going to blow somebody away, another one looks like he's going to reload and just do that sort of guns akimbo look. It's awesome. I love Needlenose, and I didn't expect to like this character as much as I did. And probably some of that has to do with me reading the comics, but ultimately I think Needlenose is a very strong figure in the deluxe scale. If you're looking to build up your Decepticon army, if you really like Target Masters, then I really do recommend Needlenose. He's fun, jets are cool. Again, if you can get some of those figure stands where you can plug into different ports, you could probably do some really cool kind of poses with this guy. So ultimately, I do recommend Transformers Legacy Evolution Needlenose. This deluxe figure is awesome, and Target Masters are even better.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Sony Pictures sent over a Blu-ray copy of Big George Foreman. That's the theatrical movie that came out earlier in the year on the rise, fall, and rise again of George Foreman. One of the more interesting heavyweight boxers in history. You probably know him nowadays, if anything, from the George Foreman Grill, which became, one of the biggest television endorsed, celebrity endorsed products of all time. I think every household has one or a variation of it. I, being a big and tall guy, was a proprietor of his Big and Tall clothing line, probably one of the first Big and Tall clothing lines available in North America, sponsored by Big Dude himself. And this is a movie, your standard biopic about his life. There have been some reviews that are middling on it. This is one of the more solid releases, honestly. Is it by the numbers? Very much so. Like, there's nothing spectacular or, crazy out of left field or overly artistic about it. It is a straightforward sports biopic on a man's life. It's very solid. The acting is overall quite good. We end up having a supporting cast, including people like Forrest Whitaker, that just dial it in just quite well. It's very well put together. Structurally, it's paint by the numbers, but sometimes that's good. It's a solid sports movie, sports biopic. I can't say much more without spoiling, what's going into his life, but I was pretty much compelled all the way through to watch. I never got bored. I've always found sports movies interesting when it comes to biopics because I'm not a big sports guy, so I don't know a lot about these characters and these people without seeing these because I'm not interested in the sports usually itself. Boxing is a little different. I've always been a little more interested in combat sports, but it's not something I didn't know most of what was happening in his life. So, it was interesting to see. This is a pretty straightforward Blu-ray release. Sony usually knocks it out of the park with visual quality, and I can say that it's a solid release. I would have liked, maybe if it was in 4K, I would have obviously seen tone mapping and everything involved, and I'm getting more and more used to seeing that. But as for a 1080p Blu-ray release, it's pretty solid. I didn't notice any colors crushing or any blacks, having any banding issues or anything. It is a solid transfer. Audio-wise, near perfect. It's got a DTS Master Audio 5.1. You could argue, could it use a 7.1? Probably not. It's a solid 5.1 release. Really good use of the dynamics around, especially for crowd noises. The dialogue is crisp and clear and never buried into the track. The use of the soundtrack music is good, so it's pretty solid. And thankfully, it actually has a few, fair amount of special features. I'm seeing less and less popping up on your regular single disc releases nowadays. So it's good to see that it was included here. There's an 11-minute mini documentary called "A Look at the Message and the Making of the Film." There is a 3-minute little special toe-to-toe Foreman and Ali looking back at the Rumble in the Jungle and choreographing and shooting of the fight. There's almost 20 minutes or so of deleted scenes, which some I felt I can understand why they were cut, and others I would have almost liked for them to have been included. There's about a minute gag reel which is included, which is fun. And then there's some previews for Sony titles. I kind of miss the days where we used to get previews before the movie that were unskippable on VH. Well, I guess not unskippable, but on VHS or on DVD, where it's you'd have to watch it before you could get to the menu. But they're there, so it's got a decent amount of special features included. There's also a digital code that you can redeem in as well. It has an MSRP of $21 US. In Canada, we're looking at probably about the equivalent. I'm going to pull up just for you right now the live numbers on Amazon.ca. It's not sponsored at all, but it is, a good litmus test to see exactly where we're at. It's, depending on if it's on sale or not, it's sitting at around, it has an MSRP, it says of $39.99. It's not really going to be that price. You're looking at somewhere in the realm of $24-25, depending on which store you go to and get it from. So if you're a fan of sports, sports biopics, it's a solid watch. If you're unsure maybe give it a digital rental first and then see if you want to add it to your collection. As it stands, it's rated PG. It's got violence in it because it's, it shows boxing scenes, but it's not anything that's going to be egregious that you may not want your family to see or anything. Solid transfer, good story to tell. I recommend watching it at least. If you're a fan, buy it.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's just going to do it for this week's show. What do we have coming up? Well, we're still doing double shots of Earth versus Soup over the next several weeks until we're back to our regular full-time schedule in September. So this week upcoming, we have we just passed the 150 mark of the show in the last week or so, but we have coming up Destroy All Monsters, as well as Robot versus Aztec Mummy, and then next week we have Aztec Mummy 2, Electric Boogaloo, and House of Frankenstein. As far as other programming on the site, this week we have a special episode, roundtable discussion that Birdman did with the rest of the crew on the Transformers movie franchise, the live action movies as a whole, as well as review of the 4K Steelbook box set that Paramount just put out, that includes all of the Bayverse movies, including Bumblebee, which is pretty neat. Just in time for when the theatrical movie of Rise of the Beast came out. And then after that, we have, I think I have to work on it a little bit, but I think it's the following week we're going to start seeing a couple of the episodes that I recorded with Aaron for Loose Cannon. We've got some weird 80s sci-fi movies that we can talk about, and that'll be over the next couple of weeks as well. As for any other programming unrelated to regular podcasts, I'll be streaming a bunch of games over the next little bit, probably even a little tonight or tomorrow, doing something a little bit different where we're going through the back catalog of some games that I still actually have physically in a few bins I found, but I have no way of playing them, on the original hardware. So emulating it is, but emulating games that I actually own, in some cases, a couple rare ones actually. I'm doing, instead of just like one-off, like recording long sessions, marathon sessions of one game, what I'm doing is I'm doing 3 games per session, roughly 2 hours, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter. We'll see how it feels on YouTube on our channel here. And what I'm doing is I'm picking the three that I have. First one is Working Designs game, Cosmic Fantasy 2, which I own 2 copies of, one sealed, one opened, that I never actually played because I never had a Turbo CD. I bought the game when I was in my big collecting days, and I was like, I'll get around to getting the system, and I just never did. So we're playing that. That is, I think, the first, if not the first, Western localized JRPG with voice acting in it. I might be wrong on that, but it feels that way. And that was the TurboGrafx CD game. We're also playing Vi on the Sega CD, which is another one. I have a loose disc instead of a disc sleeve. I never got the hardware, like the hard case for it and everything. And that one I was able to play maybe about an hour's worth or so when I originally got it, just to test it, because I had a JVC XI. I never actually had a Sega CD. I had the all-in-one unit. And then the third is a Game Gear game called Crystal Warriors, which is one of the few tactical RPGs that was released here. So the idea is each session I'll play maybe 40% of the time on each of those first 2 games, the CD-based RPGs, and then we'll close out the session with doing a level or 2 of the Game Gear game. And then after we go through that who knows how long that might take. That might take a few sessions. It might take longer throughout the summer while I'm on break. And then we'll still do some streaming now and then when I have a bigger game to review, that I'm able to do it that way, or if there's something that catches my fancy, like for instance, if we get a date for like Dragon Quest 3 2D HD or HD 2D, whatever, we might go and play Dragon Quest 2 or something, so that we can bridge the gap because we did Dragon Quest 1 earlier. So that's sort of what we're doing, just relaxing streams that way. And that way, because these older games require a lot more grinding, So to break up the grinding sessions, it's not going to just be one game for hours of grinding. We're going to have, little sections where, it's like go through a section, beat a boss, do a little grinding, all right, save the game, move on to the next game, and we'll cycle through so that we have 3 different games that we can be playing at any given time. And that's pretty much it when it comes to what's going on the site. We'll be back maybe with another one of these review episodes before the end of the summer. I don't think anything next. We probably won't have one before Birdman comes back for the regular show, so that we have a few more reviews that Birdman has ready to go that will include probably in that first week or 2 weeks of the show. And if I get something for review in between then, I will make sure that I have something recorded so that he has something to include. But that's it. Thanks for sticking around. I know it's a shorter episode coming out on a random day, but again, thanks as always, and as Birdman always says, be excellent to each other.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.